Oops. We're gonna have to edit this. This is not what I wanted to do. Cut, edit. So here's a fun little project I thought I'd do since it's really too cold to do anything outside. I want to make a black powder ball pouch for my 36 caliber Remington New Navy, and basically what it is, it's just a pouch to hold these little lead balls in. And the way this works is this opening here, you're supposed to be able to just pinch it to open it and dump the balls out into your hand when you need to reload them. I've got this one here. I bought this for my 50 caliber muzzleloader, and I've had this for years. It's made by Uncle Mike's. Quite frankly, I don't even know if they make them anymore, but I've got a lot of scrap leather laying around, so I figured we'll just use what I've got, and it gives me something to do. We're going to need a few things. First thing we're going to need, here we go. We're going to need some thread. I don't, or at this point, don't care what color the thread is, but this is a waxed cotton thread that's actually used for leather work. I've got my long leather punch, various assortment of needles, little super glue, and really we're only going to need the needles for this one. What they call latigo lace. We've got a scrap piece of heavy veg tan, relatively heavy veg tan. Need that. Piece of puke green suede leather that came in a remnant kit that I bought, and I'm just going to dye it black or maybe brown. I don't know. I haven't decided yet. So yeah, let's get to work. Okay, so we're going to need 2 pieces of this suede. I cut some of the tag off of that puke green piece. What we'll do is we'll lay this down. We'll use this as a pattern. Yes, I know I'm copying from something that's already made, but you know, why invent something if you can steal it? So what I'm going to do is trace this out. Alright, so we've got that traced out. What I'll do next is I'll cut this, so I'll trace out another piece, cut it, and then we'll get back. So I'm cutting this out with a Swiss Army knife, really for no other reason than that I've avoided purchasing a Swiss Army knife for many years, and finally bit the bullet based on a couple recommendations from a friend of mine. And I gotta tell you, I love the heck out of this thing. I have been using this little Swiss Army knife more than I ever used my 2-bladed trapper. So it may be something you want to think about adding to your bushcraft kit, or at least carry it in your pocket on a daily basis. It's just, yeah, I wish I had bought one many years ago, but you know what, better late than never. So alright, so I got my 2 pieces of suede cut out. These are going to one on top of the other like that. We're going to stitch it together. But before I do that, now we're going to make the collar. I guess they call it collar for it. And we have this piece of heavy leather here. So these aside. Alright, so let's see how we want to do this. So I think what we'll do is we'll just lay this out here and trace it. I'm going to fold over, and then we'll catch it from the back side. And so there's our pattern for that piece. This I won't cut out with a Swiss Army knife. It's a little bit too heavy. So I've got some shears I bought from Harbor Freight. It works very well for this heavy leather. So we'll get this cut out, and we'll move on to the next step. Okay, so we've got this piece cut out. Now we're just about ready. What we'll do now is we'll grab the leather punch And I'm going to set it to the 11/64. And we just need 2 holes up at the top. Doesn't necessarily, again, doesn't need to be perfect for crafting. If you think about the way people did things years ago, I'm sure things weren't always pretty or perfect. So, although some stuff was, but for our use, for our purposes, we're not going to worry about that. All right, so that's that. Okay. So what we want to do now is we got our backer board in place. We'll take our punch. We shouldn't use a wood hammer. Should probably use a ball peen, but this is what I've got. Make sure you got safety glasses on when you do this. We're going to come about a quarter, just under a quarter inch from the edge of the leather, and we'll knock some seam holes in. Do this on this side. It doesn't have to be perfect. You want it perfect, just be as perfect as you want. But just want something functional that looks decent, and it'll look decent when we're done. Okay, so we've got our pieces stamped, ready to go. Now we'll take our 2 pieces of suede, and we're going to line them up as best as we can. Get them close. Again, it doesn't have to be perfect, because we can trim anything that doesn't work right. This piece up at the top. And what we want to do is we're going to do this just to mark, more or less mark the suede, and give us a starting point. Do that side. And that's stamped here. This gives us our starting point. After that, what I'll do is I'll lay this back on. I'll go through, I'll continue with the rest of these just to get this point, and then from there I'll just freehand it around the edges and stamp it. Those will be our sewing seams. So to start the stitching process, what I'm going to do is I'm going to come back down. I'll go down 2 holes. So 1, 2. Let's put it where you can see it. So I'll come down 2 holes, 1, 2, and I'll start it from the inside. And I'm using a leather needle, which is not quite as sharp. So I went through the second hole on the heavy leather. I'm going to go back, and it came in from the back. I'm leaving a tag. I'm going around, I'm going through the first hole on the heavy leather. Pull that through. I'm going to go through the first hole on this piece of suede. And then the first hole on this piece of suede. Now before I pull this tight, I'm going to go back through the second hole on the piece of suede. Pull it through. And then I'm going to come back through the same hole that I've got the tag end coming out of. So it'd be the second hole. And we'll wrestle that through. Now this is where I'll begin to take it down and tighten everything up a bit. And you're going to have to play with it. The reason we want to do that is so that we can hide the tag. Pull that down nice and tight. There. So now everything, pieces are starting to join, and we've got a tag end. Now that I've got that done, pull these 2 nails that will hold our pieces together. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to stitch all the way around, back up through here, and then I'm going to go back over and come all the way back and end here. And this will be my tie-off point. Okay, so I've got this all stitched all the way around the first pass, and what I'm going to do next is I'm going to come back through, go back over all the stitches, there we go, so that there's a connecting stitch in between each one of these spaces. So if you look here, you can see these spaces in between each stitch, and what I'm going to do is it's going to go back over, come under, back over, come under, back over, so it'll be double. Okay, so I'm getting to the point where my thread's getting a little too short to really do anything with. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come through this area here, and I'm going to poke the needle through, and I'm going to come up between the heavy leather and the suede. Let me pull this out. And so now I've got that. We'll just snip off, and now you do want to leave a tag end. We'll get to that a little bit later. And now what I'll do is I'll come down where that thread should have gone through, pull it, leave a tag. Now we'll tie these two off. Just simple overhand knot. And now we'll trim these down, trim these tag ends off. And we'll just push them down in between the seam. If you just give it a little press, it'll mold right into that leather and you'll never see it. Then after that, now I'll just continue my stitch. Alright, so I've got everything double stitched all the way around, both sides, front to back, and now I'm going to finish it up. So what I'm going to do is I came through up here, I'm going to go again back through the first hole, in between the suede, the heavy leather, pull that up, I'm going to strip this needle off, trim that tag end just to make it a little easier to work with, and then I'm going to tie it off. Okay, well apparently I lost some footage on one of the more important steps. So after the pieces were sewed, what you need to do is glue the neck and the first piece of suede together. The way we're going to do that is with a little contact cement. If you've never used contact cement before, it's actually a pretty simple process, but you can complicate it if you're not careful. What you're going to do is you're going to coat each piece separately. Nice, just a thin coat. You don't want a lot. You don't want it gloopy, you don't want it runny. And what you're going to do is you're going to let that dry, and it doesn't take long. You actually just let it dry. It'll get tacky. It's one of the reasons why you don't want to gloop it up. Once the glue tacks up, then you just remove the spacer to keep them separated, then just press them. And it'll adhere almost instantly, and it's a permanent bond. So I glue things afterwards. I didn't do it beforehand because I don't want the adhesive on my punch and on my needle and thread. I've got a little bit of tackiness here. This is more or less dry, so what we're going to do is we're going to go for it. So we're going to put the two pieces together, and again we're only doing this piece with the heavy leather, not doing both pieces. Just a little pressure, and they say you're supposed to keep it clamped for, I don't know what, 2 hours or whatever, an hour. My experience has been once it contacts, it just holds. And you can see here we've got a little glue in the hole. That's not a problem. We'll just take this dart and we'll just poke it, clean it out. And now while that sets up, as you can see, we've got these edges along here, the top, and on this side here. So I'm going to go in with a knife and clean those up. I'm going to stain this because this is the ugliest color I've ever seen in the world, and I can't stand it. So I've got some Fibbing's black leather dye and a little dauber. Now you're probably going to want to use gloves when you do this, but me, because I'm tough, I'm not going to bother. You know, we're just going to start daubing it on, and this suede will soak this up really fast. So, which is okay. Again, I really don't care, as long as this ugly green stuff is gone. Alright, so I'll just dye all this, and we'll get back to the finished product in a couple minutes. Alright, so here we have the finished product. Everything is dry, both sides. Got it filled with some 36 caliber round ball. Now the way this works is that you just kind of pinch that open, and you have access to the round ball. And then to make sure you don't lose them all over the place, I just take that loop, throw it over the top under the knot, and that's it.